If you've been following the, well, quite frankly, the farce that has been the Tory leadership contest, you can know one thing about Liz Truss. First of all, she likes to do this. She's not just playing, a squeeze box. She's playing, big fish, little fish cardboard box. She likes to use her hands. She likes to emphasize things when they are a big problem to talking about the small things, to try and draw the audience in. And of course, this brings to many of the of the complaints against her that she's acting like a robot. And true, she has earned the moniker of Trussbot. Just like Theresa May earned the moniker of Maybot. She is very, very robot-like in her actions. She doesn't seem to be able to get her personality across in any speech I've ever seen her give. But then that's because all this is perfectly politically calculated to get her where she needs to go. She is a political chameleon, and she will say whatever it is that gets her elected. Now, unfortunately, because she is being backed heavily by these right-wing ERG types who have basically, with one stroke this time, really effectively taken control of the government, and we will be seeing that reflected in her cabinet choices when we get to see those. We'll probably get to know very, very soon, in fact. But a lot of Tory MPs are very, very worried about, of course, the cost of living crisis and the energy crisis. And even though Liz Truss has continuously said, I am against handouts, I do not want to solve this by giving handouts, even Tory MPs are turning around and just saying, well, she's going to have to U-turn. So almost immediately as Liz Truss enters office, she will have no choice but to pull a U-turn on this. So let's go dive into this article and find out what this U-turn is going to be. So let's remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, if you are new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, buy me coffee. And of course, there is the YouTube thank you button down below as well. And of course, there's the YouTube subscription as well called the Pony Club, where you can, join the Pony Club. And you get sort of badges and emojis when you sign up to that. So over we go to The Guardian with their article on this, the title of She Has No Choice. Liz Truss faces U-turn on energy if she enters number 10, MPs say. For months, everyone in government has known that Friday was Energy Cap Day. And at 7 a.m, the bad news duly dropped. Phones pinged as the nation woke to Ofgem's confirmation that the typical gas and electricity bills were rising by a frightening 80%. Millions of people would be unable to cope, said charities. Even those on low or even middle earnings who have some savings could see them entirely wiped out. It was a full-on national crisis, albeit long predicted. Consumer champion Martin Lewis tore around central London, giving breathless interviews after breathless interview and stating on BBC Radio 4 Today programme at 7:30, Lewis appealed on the 11 separate different outlets before 2 p.m, raging at the government's failure to act on his warnings he issued all the way back in March. But while Lewis was everywhere and Labour's shadow ministers piled in unopposed, the government was nowhere. Where, news producers asked, was the energy minister, Greg Hands, or indeed the other minister of the Crown? Prime Minister Boris Johnson, back from his second summer holiday, or even the Chancellor for at least another week at least, Nadhim Zahawi. Hours earlier, Hands, whose responsibilities included the energy retail markets, had tweeted that it was, quote, great to visit Los Alamos National Laboratory here in New Mexico, where he'd been holding useful discussions on nuclear fission. When asked in the mid-morning if Hands was back at his desk, officials at the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy seemed at first not to know. The fact that he was traveling to Indonesia for a G20 meeting, and despite the fact that he had been spotted late morning in his department office between flights, clearly with no time to even entertain any media bids. With the government absent, the Joseph Rowntree Foundation released its own analysis, showing that energy bills would outstrip many people's incomes to a point where paying them would become fantasy. It was, the JRF made clear, terrifying. In all my years, I haven't double checked a price analysis as much as this one because it is so staggering. It feels incorrect, said Peter Majik, the foundation's chief analyst. It is impossible to think a care worker or a shop assistant will have to scramble to find and pay hundreds of pounds more for their heating, or the entirety of someone else's income for a whole year will be less than their energy bill. But that's what these figures suggest will be quite the case unless significantly further steps are taken quickly. And that is what frightens me the most. I have to say, when I saw this and I saw the Joseph Rowntree Foundation come out on this, and by the way, an amazing group, an amazing foundation that do so much good work and so much good analysis on this. And when they're coming out and they're saying that, people at the point where paying their energy bill is a fantasy, we have to seriously worry. And I've been telling you for quite some time, I was worried about this. And I didn't even know how bad this was going to be. But if you've got like the Joseph Rowntree Foundation saying this is going to be terrifying, and that even their own analysis was so staggering to him, the analysis felt incorrect to him. Yeah, it's pretty scary. Anyway, back to it. The growing sense of the national anxiety that Majik shared with millions will not, however, be addressed or at least eased for the time being by anyone running the country. There are still 8 days to go before the name of the next Prime Minister is announced. Then, once Liz Truss or Rishi Sunak is in number 10, the day for an emergency budget has to be set, options discussed, and eventually choices made. Friday morning's events added to the growing sense that the 6-week Tory leadership contest had not only left a vacuum at the heart of power, but had taken place in a world some distance from reality. Not one has the search of the new Conservative leader and the PM left the government effectively spending. At the start, the cabinet agreed not to make any big financial decisions until it was over, despite the cost of living crisis. But the desire for the candidates to play to whatever they believed are the views of the tiny Tory selectorate has made a very pragmatic policy formation impossible. Truss is the hot favourite and has spent weeks locking herself into potentially inflationary commitments to cut tax, at the same time pledging to avoid the handouts which everyone knows are inevitable. Even to those most in need are able to get the help with their energy bills. But candidates have also leaned away from the green solutions to the energy crisis. At several hustings, Truss has won the applause of Tory members by dismissing solar power. And she's actually threatened to go further than that. She's not only just dismissed it, she said she wants to shut down our solar power network, which I think is like 4% of our electricity. And 4% may not sound a lot, but it is when you think about it, and 4% gone like that. That's quite worrying. Very worrying indeed. So back to it. But the reality is closing in. Economists and MPs see the danger. They say something will have to give. Paul Johnson, the director of the Institute of Fiscal Studies, said that Truss would have to swerve away from some of what she had been saying. He said, she is bound to have to do substantial handouts and is committed to substantial tax cuts. That is clearly going to be many tens of billions in additional borrowing, which will pose risks for the long-term stability to the public finances and potentially for the short-term outlook for inflation or inflationary rates. All governments are struggling to find solutions, but there is a sense of the urgent engagement in the EU that has been lacking in the UK. European governments are scrambling to find ways to protect households and businesses, and the Czech Republic, which holds the EU's rotating presidency, is weighing calling an emergency energy summit to discuss the bloc's wide price caps. Many countries have already taken action, though. Spain has capped gas prices for a year, halved VAT on energy bills, and slashed another tax on electricity to 0.5%. and it is taxing energy companies more, transferring the money to needy customers. Italy this month has approved a new energy package worth over 17 billion euros on top of the 35 billion earmarked since January for the cost of living subsidies, and also aims to tax companies profiting from higher energy prices. Low-income earners are getting a 200 euros extra payout. France has forced the state-owned electricity utility, EDF, to limit wholesale prices to just 4% for a year, and to cut its tax on electricity consumption from 22.50 euros per megawatt per hour to just €1 per household, and for 50 cents for businesses. Further individual help is being decided. Germany has enacted several energy-saving measures this week. Temperatures in the public buildings will be limited to just 19 Celsius from September, and heating turned off in common areas such as corridors. The private sector is also being encouraged to follow suit. And that's just what's going on in Europe and individual countries. What has happened over here? Nothing, because our government is just asleep at the wheel. They knew this crisis was coming. They, as I already said, they knew it was coming. This has been long predicted, and nothing is happening. So, in the last 2 days, Truss has indicated that she will provide help as and when it is needed, but it will require a U-turn before she even becomes PM. David Gauke, the former Treasury Minister, said that he believes she would have to announce some tax cuts to save face, but these would provide nowhere near enough help. In effect, he thinks that after 6 weeks of saying one thing, she will have to do another, raising more questions about the Tory leadership contest at times of crisis. She is trying at the moment to present what she is going to do as very conservative, whereas I suspect what she will end up doing is something that has to be very substantial interventionist, handing out the measures at this heart, which is not the kind of policies that she wants to do, but I cannot see that she has any other choice. And I think that is really going to be the situation here. Liz Truss is going to win. She's promised all these things at the Tory leadership contest, and she's not going to be able to deliver on them. She's going to have to seriously get involved on this. And you've already got unions saying they want to have massive industrial action to protest over this cost of living crisis. And it's not just the energy, as we've said before, there's a ton of different crises that are all coming together. And what's the response? Well, it's the typical Tory right-wing response. If we cut taxes, somehow that solves everything. But as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button on your way out. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and the YouTube subscription, the Pony Club that you can join down below as well. There's also the one-off donation links of Buy Me Coffee down below as well. And of course, the YouTube thank you button as well. So as always, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you all next time.